They told you good wives don't talk about sex. I say good wives are the ones still getting it. You keep waiting for your spark to come back, and I'm here to remind you, you are the damn fire. Welcome to Hot Wife Energy Unmuted, where we stop playing nice and start playing naked truth. Let's talk about what really kills desire and what it takes to bring it back. Nobody warned you that the most dangerous season of your marriage isn't when you're fighting. It's when you've stopped. When peace becomes a disguise for distance. When you're not arguing, but you're not reaching either. When everything looks fine from the outside, but you can feel the air between you thick with what neither of you will say. There was a time in my marriage when that distance was visible. You could feel it sitting between us on the couch, sleeping in the space where our legs used to tangle. And I remember thinking, how did we get here? How did something that once felt effortless become so damn awkward? It wasn't that closeness felt unsafe. It just got unfamiliar. Like reaching for him might make the space between us real. Like touching him would highlight how long it had been since I'd tried. So instead of closing the gap, I lived around it. I filled the silence with schedules. I buried tension under busyness. And I told myself, this was just a phase. But guess what? Distance doesn't disappear on its own. It hardens. It becomes habit. And the longer you wait to bridge it, the heavier it becomes to cross. It becomes habit. And the longer you wait to bridge it, the heavier it becomes to cross. That's how marriages die. Not in explosions, but in avoidance. Not from lack of love, but from lack of reach. And that's what scared me most. We weren't falling apart. We were quietly fading one unspoken moment at a time. So if you're feeling these words right now and something in your chest tightens because you know that distance, this is for you. Because saving your marriage isn't about going back. It's about relearning how to reach forward when connection starts feeling foreign. But before we talk about saving it, we have to talk about what peace actually costs. Everyone says, fight for your marriage. And almost no one says, learn how to be peaceful inside it. And that's the problem. Most of us were taught that love has to be proven through struggle. That if you're not fighting for it, you must not care enough. But I've learned that the kind of peace that keeps a marriage alive isn't the quiet that comes from avoidance. It's the calm that comes from awareness. Peace, it isn't passive, it's presence. I used to think fighting meant passion and silence meant stability. But fighting without understanding is chaos. And silence without connection is just distance in disguise. You can't build a peaceful marriage when your nervous system is always on defense. You can't build connection when every disagreement feels like proof that you're failing. I used to chase calm by shutting down. I'd bite my tongue, smooth things over, tell myself it's not worth it. But every time I swallowed my truth, a little bit more of me disappeared. That's the cost of counterfeit peace. You get quiet, but you lose closeness. Real peace isn't the absence of tension. It's the ability to stay open inside it. It's sitting in the discomfort without sprinting for control or hiding behind detachment. It's letting truth breathe long enough to become understanding. And that's where the real fight happens, but not against each other, but against the part of you that would rather retreat than be real. Because pretending everything is fine is easy. Being honest when it's awkward, vulnerable, and inconvenient, that's intimacy. So maybe the goal isn't to fight for your marriage. Maybe it's to learn the rhythm between truth and tenderness. between tension and touch, between peace and passion. That's what keeps connection alive. Not performance, not perfection. Presence. And presence doesn't just live in your mind, it lives in your body. Nobody tells you that your body can betray your marriage long before your mouth ever does. It's wild. You can be sitting next to the man you love, and your nervous system has already decided we're not safe enough to soften. And not unsafe as in danger, but unsafe as in uncertain. Uncertain if you'll be heard, if you'll be met, if you'll still matter when you open your mouth. And that uncertainty rewires everything. Your body learns to protect, not connect. It trades curiosity for control. It starts scanning for proof that it's okay to relax. And when it doesn't find it, it builds walls out of tension and calls them boundaries. That's not hormones. That's physiology. That's your survival system trying to run a relationship. Think of your nervous system like a thermostat. When stress rises, deadlines, kids, bills, resentment, it lowers the temperature on desire and connection to keep you functional. It doesn't know the difference between a fight with your husband and a threat in traffic. All it knows is don't melt right now. So you stay cool, right? Composed. Untouched. And after a while, that calm you're so proud of starts feeling more like ice. Here's the naked truth. Your body can't crave what it doesn't feel safe to receive. If regulation is off, intimacy feels like exposure instead of invitation. Research from the National Institute of Health confirms this. Chronic dysregulation spikes cortisol, tanking oxytocin, the bonding hormone, and turning touch into tension. And that's why every date night fix and just communicate more plan flops. Because you can't communicate through a dysregulated nervous system. You'll either over-explain, shut down, or start solving instead of listening. So when I say peace isn't passive, this is what I mean. Peace is the moment that your body and your heart are on the exact same page. When you stop treating love like a crisis to manage and you start letting it be an experience to feel. Saving your marriage isn't just emotional work. It's biological reprogramming. You have to teach your body that connection is safe again. That's when touch stops feeling foreign and starts feeling familiar. But while our bodies are trying to relearn safety, the world keeps feeding us noise. Let's talk about what the intimacy industry gets wrong, real wrong. Because sis, it's loud as hell out here, right? So every headline is how to get the spark back, as if your marriage is a scented candle that you forgot to light. Every reel says keep it spontaneous, as if spontaneity is the only kind of desire that counts. They make intentional sex sound sterile. Like planning connection somehow kills chemistry. But the gag is scheduling sex doesn't make it mechanical, but avoiding it, that does. Because intention is foreplay. Putting it on the calendar isn't about logistics. It's about saying, I value this enough to prepare for it. That's the difference between ritual and routine. But here's where the industry still fails us. It keeps teaching wives to chase aesthetics instead of alignment. To buy toys, buy lingerie, weekend getaways. Instead of asking, does my energy even feel open to connection right now? Guess what? You can't outperform a disconnection you haven't healed. You can't seduce your way through nervous system shutdown. So what happens? Wives try harder, but in the wrong direction. And then they call it effort. But effort without awareness is just self-betrayal and better lipstick. Here's the secret no one wants to share. Your husband doesn't need a new technique. He needs a regulated partner. He needs to feel your body's yes match your words. He needs your energy to invite and not endure. That's what reignites marriages. Alignment, not aesthetics. And if we really want to talk trends, here's the data. In 2025, 15 to 20% of US marriages are sexless. That means fewer than 10 encounters per year, with 43% of women reporting a post-marriage drop in desire, often tied to stress, not lack of love. Record numbers of sexless marriages, record numbers of women with low libido, record numbers of women saying they're empowered. So tell me, how are we empowered, but we're less connected? It's because empowerment without embodiment is just noise. And the industry keeps selling rebellion instead of regulation. The truth is, the new foreplay is safety, not the absence of conflict, but the presence of truth. And that's what every marriage craving revival is missing. And while the world keeps shouting about what women should do to get the spark back, I never stopped to ask how he was experiencing all of this. Because guess what? While we're scrolling through advice on how to be softer, sexier, more intentional, our husbands are sitting next to us wondering what changed. Why the woman who used to reach for them now flinches at closeness. And how to fix something they can't even name. I was so busy decoding my own body that I forgot he was quietly reacting to the distance too. And when I finally started paying attention, I realized the same nervous system that was protecting me was confusing the hell out of him. And that confusion, it has a face. Here's what I didn't see back then. While I was retreating, he was reading every inch of my distance as rejection. He didn't hear she's protecting herself. He heard she doesn't want me. When I went quiet, he filled in the blanks with guilt. When I turned inward, he took it personal. So when that touch disappeared, he didn't know how to ask for it. He just felt the absence and assumed he'd done something wrong. And I'll be honest, I didn't make it easy to decode. I thought he should just know what I needed. That emotional fluency was instinct instead of a skill. Meanwhile, he was standing in the gap between confusion and rejection, trying to love me through a fog he couldn't see through. Men aren't as detached as they look. They just express fear differently. Where we analyze, they act, and where we retreat in silence, they try to fix the problem that isn't the problem. He'd ask, "What's wrong?" And I'd say nothing, and that nothing could echo louder than any argument we could have ever had. Because here's what I've learned. When a woman disconnects, a good man doesn't stop caring. He stops trying in order to survive the rejection. That's the moment that marriages start starving from both sides. So if you're in the stage where he feels distant, remember, he's probably not unbothered. He's confused. He's reacting to a nervous system he can't read, and until somebody reaches across the gap, both of you are sitting in the same loneliness, just facing different directions. So let's stop guessing and start practicing. Here's what I now know. Connection doesn't come back with a single conversation. It comes back through repetition. Small, consistent signals that say, we're still here. So this week's practice is simple, but it works. Sit back to back for 2 minutes. No words, no phones, just breathe. Let your spine rest against his. Feel the weight of his breath move through you. Inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth, and let your shoulders drop. You don't need to talk it out. Just regulate together. Because repair doesn't start with words, it starts with rhythm. When your breathing sinks, your nervous system stops competing and start co-creating. That's the real foreplay, regulation. You can add music if you want, dim the lights, or do it right before bed. The point isn't to make it romantic. The point is to remind your bodies that you're not enemies. You're just two people learning the language of safety again. And try it for 7 nights. 2 minutes, back to back. No expectations, just presence. I know it sounds small, but those tiny reconnections start building trust faster than any apology ever could. That's what teaches your body to say, see, it's okay to soften again. This is how you start closing the distance, not by demanding closeness, but by practicing it. And the moment you start practicing, the questions surface. big ones. A wife DM'd me recently and asked, why is it always the wife's responsibility to work on the marriage? And the question stopped me because I remember thinking that exact same thing once. Back then, I was convinced something was wrong with me. My desire had changed. My energy felt off. And instead of talking about it, I internalized it. I thought if I were more feminine, more playful, more whatever, this wouldn't be happening. I expected him to read the signals I didn't even understand myself. To look at my silence and somehow translate it into the storm that was happening inside me. The truth? I didn't know how to put my emotions into words. I wanted him to see me without having to say a thing. Because saying it felt too vulnerable, too messy, too revealing of how disconnected I felt from myself. So every time he asked what's wrong and I said nothing, I wasn't lying. I genuinely didn't know how to explain it. It wasn't that he wasn't trying, it's that I was waiting for him to decode what I hadn't yet discovered. And that's the part that nobody teaches us. You can't expect translation when you haven't learned your own language yet. Once I started finding the words for my exhaustion, for my confusion, for the emptiness I couldn't name, things began to shift. And not because he suddenly changed, but because I finally gave him something real to me. Understanding isn't mind reading, it's communication. And communication only works when it has somewhere to land. So when that wife asked me, why is it always on us? I told her, it's not on us. It starts with us because clarity is contagious. When you learn how to name what you need, you stop waiting to be rescued and you start inviting connection again. And when I finally stopped waiting, that's when everything shifted. Nobody talks about the moment you realize silence has become your love language. And a small talk feels safer than honesty. When good night replaces good. That's where I was the night everything started to shift. We were sitting on opposite ends of the bed, same room, same air, but miles apart. And for once, I stopped trying to act okay. I looked at him and said, I don't know what's happening to me. I just know I don't feel like myself. And I don't know how to get back. That line cracked something open, not a fairy tale, just a doorway. He didn't rush to fix it. He just stayed. And for the first time in a long time, the air between us softened, because that's what truth does. It doesn't solve, but it melts. And the weeks after that, there wasn't a big reconciliation scene, just micro moments. His hand finding mine again without hesitation, a laugh slipping out in the kitchen, and eventually something else did too. The silence between us finally sounded like peace instead of distance. And that's when I learned intimacy isn't rebuilt by intensity. It's rebuilt by honesty. You don't have to perform vulnerability. You just have to practice it, one small truth at a time. So if you're feeling these words and wondering where to start where it's awkward. Say the thing you've been rehearsing in your head. Let it sound messy, unpolished, real. Because clarity doesn't come before communication. It comes because of it. And that's the first real spark you'll ever feel again. That night was the beginning, but it wasn't the end. Here's what I learned. Silence isn't always the absence of sound. Sometimes it's the absence of self. For years, I confused quiet with peace, detachment with maturity, distance with independence. But real peace has a pulse. You can feel it breathing between two people who have learned how to stay present even when it's uncomfortable. Marriage doesn't require perfection, it requires honesty. Repeated enough times to become safety. And when you finally start speaking again, really speaking again, not performing, you realize the goal was never to get back to who you were, it's to build something deeper with who you've both become. So if you're standing in that same quiet space, wondering if it's too late, this is your reminder. The gap between you isn't a wall, it's an invitation. All you have to do is answer it out loud. When I look back on that season now, I realized that saving my marriage was never about fighting harder. It was about learning how to stay open when every instinct told me to shut down. Because the most dangerous season of a marriage isn't when you're fighting, it's when you've stopped. And the way back isn't found in the noise. It's found in the small, consistent acts of honesty that remind your body we're still safe here. You don't have to rebuild what you had. You get to create something new from who you are now. That's the heartbeat of this entire movement. Not fixing, not performing, but reclaiming. You're not broken. You're just unpracticed in the language of connection. And that's something we can relearn together. If this stirred something in you, don't let it stay theoretical. Let's do the work together. If this hit something in you, if you felt that quiet ache because you know the distance we talked about, then I want you to join me this Sunday at noon Eastern for my next free masterclass, Hot Wife Energy, Unmute It. We're diving deeper into this exact conversation, how to rebuild connection without losing yourself in the process, how to reset your nervous system, and how to reignite intimacy from a place of calm instead of chaos. Because preparation is evidence of expectation. And the moment you start preparing for a better marriage, you're already halfway there. You can register at www.hotwifeenergy.com. Desire doesn't die, it starves. And every time you listen, we feed it. So keep building. The wife you're becoming deserves to be felt.